You know, I'm starting to think that, well, sometimes in order to solve a problem, it requires, well, different ways to think about the situation and problem to begin with. You know, we were traumatized as a nation to see Border Patrol agents on horseback using horse steers as whips on Haitian immigrants attempting to unlawfully cross our border. All of it was traumatizing to large groups of people in this country, especially the African American community, but also the indigenous community, the Asian community, the Latino and Latinx community. All of us were traumatized. The Jewish community, women in this country were traumatized. It was just something that was, well, un-American to its core. It just was something deplorable that we thought we would never see again in this country. But we saw it. Well, after the fact, the ambassador to Haiti, she resigned. And well, regardless of what you think about that opinion, she resigned because, well, she didn't want to have any part to do with continuing America's poor relationship. And when I say poor, that's putting it mildly. Poor relationship with Haiti. You know, Haiti for the longest period of time has been the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. And well, it doesn't really have to be that way, because we know America is the richest nation on the planet Earth in terms of wealth and asset allocation. And we know that Canada is, well, doing pretty well for itself. And Mexico, I mean, it has its issues, but it does relatively well. But then you have Haiti. And they've had some natural disasters. Some very earth-shattering things that will set you back pretty substantially. And recently this summer, their president was, well, tragically assassinated. Regardless of what you think about somebody's political opinions, affiliation, ideology, in a law-abiding society, in a free society, in a democratic society, you wage a campaign against an individual. And if you win that campaign, you take that individual's former office and hold that person's powers and responsibility. You don't assume office through violence. For 220 years, that had been the norm in America until January 6th. So, Haiti has been experiencing problems, really serious problems. And well, now America is experiencing some of those issues. And we can't afford to do the same thing we've been doing with Haiti. It just won't work. Haitian Americans in the diaspora, they're not liking what they're seeing, and rightfully so. And well, Einstein said it best: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity. And we're inclined to believe that. See, look, I'm sure America, through, certain politicians, have sent some pretty extraordinary diplomats to Haiti to try to fix the issue. And well, the result is that the issue hasn't been fixed. That's just a reality. And well, I would expect that we wouldn't necessarily be so quick to send the same individuals back without even consulting Haitian Americans or Haitian people in the country as to what they want. See, it might not be the individuals this time that are at fault, but when something hasn't worked for so long, people will blame anything unless, well, it's a wholesale change, a complete washing of the slate, so to speak. Something dramatic, something that's like, well, now I see that you're really going to prioritize and care about our concerns. And you're going to, well, listen and be objective and find somebody who can solve problems, big problems, on a large scale for everybody, for the benefit of the society. That's what I think Haiti wants. That's what I think the Haitian people want, Haitian Americans want. And well, that's what they should get in a representative or a diplomat. You know, I think I found a person who fits that bill. She's a current senator in the United States Senate from the great state of Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. Now, actually, for the record, there's 11,842 lakes in Minnesota. So more than 10,000. Most of you didn't know that. Now, Senator Amy Klobuchar, I think, would make an excellent ambassador to Haiti. Let me tell you why. You know, before Amy Klobuchar was a senator, she was a mother. And well, local hospital, after she gave childbirth, discharged her less than 24 hours after being in the hospital. It just so happened that, well, her newborn had a medical issue. And apparently that was happening all across the state of Minnesota. And not just in Minnesota, wouldn't you know. It was happening all across the country. Women were being discharged from the hospitals in the United States of America less than 24 hours after giving birth, regardless of, well, the child's health or the mother's health or condition. Now you can only imagine what it was for, well, women of color who have disproportionately always been impacted negatively by public health and maternal health needs in this country. So Amy Klobuchar worked in her state, in her local area, to pass a law for the entire state of Minnesota that a mother would have to at least be discharged after 48 hours of giving childbirth, not just less than 24 hours. It was so popular in Minnesota that the president then at that time, Bill Clinton, made it the law of the entire nation. So now no mother in any hospital can be discharged less than 24 hours after giving childbirth. That was something Amy Klobuchar took an interest in because it happened to her. And she listened to other mothers across this country and across Minnesota. And she got it done. And that was before she was a United States Senator. And then, well, you have running for Hennepin County DA. Now, in her first race, she barely won. the Hennepin County DA shit. Barely. It was razor close. But by the time she ran for re-election, she won by a much larger margin. And then you go to the Senate. I mean, she won her seat pretty comfortably by roughly about 9 points the first time. When she was up for re-election again, it was nearly 30 percentage points that she won her re-election campaign. And when she ran again, it was roughly around 30 percentage points again. You know what this shows me? When people in Minnesota, now I'm not sure if you've ever been to Minnesota, but I spent some time in Minnesota. It's the land of 10,000 lakes. It's very diverse. I mean, if you can govern Minnesota, you got the Iron Range, you got Minneapolis, you got small little towns and, well, municipalities. If 6 out of 10 people like you in Minnesota, you're doing well. Amy Klobuchar, she listens. She's brilliant and well respected by just about everybody. And institutions and, well, universities and nonprofits and women's rights organizations and outdoor organizations. You know, it's rare when everybody gives you an award, but just about everybody, regardless of, well, what their personal beliefs are, have given Amy Klobuchar awards for outstanding, not being an outstanding person, but being an outstanding good worker, who happens to be a good person. You know, it's her work ethic that everybody's complimenting. And now she's taking on big tech. Before, you know, the nitwit cult leader who whipped up the internet into a fury, before he was talking about censorship and cancel culture, because he was out there counseling people, you remember. Famously, he counseled Colin Kaepernick of the San Francisco 49ers, the quarterback. He got him fired from his job. But anyway, before that nitwit was talking about cancel culture and the problem with technology, Amy Klobuchar was talking about that issue. She's written extensively about it. You know, sometimes you get overshadowed when you're actually productive and you do your work. It's not really sexy to do legislative policy work, get into the nitty-gritty of what's happening in your state or local affairs, talk with people, listen to people, come up with solutions to difficult problems. That's not sexy. What's generally sexy is, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene yelling across the chamber at her colleagues, demanding that they're traitors. You know, that makes the evening news. Somebody actually doing the work, finding solutions, solving problems for people. That doesn't necessarily make the evening news. It just is what it is. But Amy Klobuchar, I think, would be a clean break from the past with America and Haiti and the poor relationship. I think that it would, well, set a new tone. And the Haitian people would actually be intrigued by this. You know, it's a tough job. I'm under no illusion that, well, maybe people don't want to do it because, well, pardon my French, but it's fucking tough. But, well, if we are going to change course, we should send somebody that, well, has changed course in their own country. You know, Amy Klobuchar ran for the highest office in the land. She didn't make it. We know that. But, well, if she can be loved by Minnesota, which she is, adored to death in Minnesota, and, well, if she can get outstanding awards from universities, institutions, outdoors organizations, you name it, Amy Klobuchar has an award. If she can advocate for, well, mothers all across America to change a law that men had, well, not even thought about changing. Because remember, they don't have to go through, well, the issues that women have to go through in our society. You know, poverty affects a lot of Haitian people, but it predominantly affects Haitian women and girls in the society. And that's something that, well, maybe a lens that a male can't necessarily glean or focus on entirely enough. The reality is Amy Klobuchar gets things done. When she puts her mind to it, things get done. And we need somebody like that in Haiti. Desperately. The country does. Haiti does. You know, a victory for Haiti is a victory for America. It's a victory for the whole entire Western Hemisphere. You gotta start looking at reunification and reconciliation for the whole Western Hemisphere. Because that's what the Eastern Hemisphere is doing. And you gotta be competitive in this new world. And beyond being competitive, you gotta have a equity and social justice lens approach to these things. And well, tragically enough, the whole country was traumatized by what happened in Senator Amy Klobuchar's state, Minnesota, last year with Derek Chauvin and George Floyd. It shocked the whole entire nation. It shocked the world. You know, Minnesota could have came apart at the seams, but it held together because, well, it had good people under good leadership. That can't be said enough. That, well, Amy Klobuchar was the senator at the time. And, well, she held her state together. You know, if Amy Klobuchar can pull a magician trick and fix Haiti, and she's already fixed America, and she's working on big tech reforms, I mean, I think that's worthy enough to, well, one day be president of the United States of America. But outside of that, I think it's worthy enough to maybe be, well, one of the greatest American legislative politicians in the history of this country. You know, it's a tough job, and it's just a recommendation by the Purple Beach South. But, well, if she does it, I know she'll be great at it, ambassador of Haiti. And then, well, that opens up a Senate seat. And the Democrats have a governor, so the governor can appoint another senator. What better show of, well, a change in pace, a new type of America, than Amy Klobuchar becoming, well, the ambassador of Haiti. And, well, the governor of Minnesota naming in her replacement Ihan Omar, an immigrant, a Somalian refugee who came to this country because, well, her country was war-torn. That she be named as a replacement for Amy Klobuchar in the Minnesota Senate, in the United States Senate. I mean, you don't get stories like this every day. And these are stories of great women in the American experiment. It's just a recommendation. That's all I ever do, is recommend things. And I heard that both are working on a piece of legislation to give the gold medal to Purple Rain Prince. I hope that gets done. There was no greater influence on American society than Prince. He's a Minnesota hero. And Amy Klobuchar, she's a Minnesota hero. And he had no mind. She's a Minnesota hero. Minnesota, you're doing great. Keep it up. And yeah, Ambassador to Haiti, Amy Klobuchar, kind of has a nice ring to it. A United States Senator, Leanne Omar. Minnesota. Great things about it.